All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming Tampa Pro, which we're now about 10 days away from. Not this weekend, but next weekend. So the Tampa Pro is going to be interesting, especially in men's open bodybuilding. You've got one of the best open bodybuilders right now that is not yet qualified for the Olympia, Akim Williams, who's already won the Tampa Pro in the past. He's going to be trying to win it again this year and earn his qualification to the 2022 Mr. Olympia. And Akim, like we've talked about, he's a very hit-or-miss guy when it comes to conditioning. He certainly has the size and physique of a guy that could even win the Mr. Olympia. Massive arms, crazy wide back, still maintains a pretty small waist. He's a massive bodybuilder, but the conditioning has really been the thing that I think has held him back. I think that's the reason why he didn't do as good at this past year's Mr. Olympia as he did the year prior, because the conditioning wasn't consistent. And the year that he placed top 6, he had very good conditioning, but it was going to be a question of whether or not he was going to be able to maintain that or replicate that for the following year. And we found out that wasn't the case. Now he's working with Justin Miller, a strong spirit. You guys might know him on Instagram. He's the same guy that coached Georgia Bull Peterson. He's also the same guy coaching Kareth Bajo that's doing 212 here in Tampa. And in this update, Justin says that if only people knew how he's looking right now at 10 days out, it would break the internet. And those are very strong words coming from Justin Miller. Again, the guy that coached George Peterson, one of the most conditioned classic physique competitors, I think, of all time. So Justin knows conditioning. He knows what he's looking at, and for him to say that about Akim, I think that carries a lot of weight, and that makes me pretty optimistic of what Akim is going to look like come this Tampa Pro. And I think conditioning being a big factor for Akim makes it even more interesting that this will be the show that Kamal El-Gargni competes in. Kamal posted this update at 10 days out, some back shots showing off his conditioning going into the show, and Kamal is a guy, even though he's 50 years old, he's known for his conditioning in 212. As a 212 bodybuilder, he won the 212 Mr. Olympia. He's been a top 3 placer at the 212 Olympia for the past 3 years. And in the 212 category, I think conditioning is such a big factor, even more so than in men's open, because of that weight cap. It makes it that much more competitive from the standpoint of conditioning. So this might be a really good show for him to make his debut, where you've got a guy that's a really good, really big men's open guy that up until this point, I would say is probably the favorite to win this show, Akim. And for him to go up against Akim, his strong point is conditioning. Akim's strong point is really size, not so much conditioning. Conditioning might even be Akim's Achilles heel. So I think we could find ourselves looking at a very fascinating call-out if we had Kamal versus Akim. Two very, very different physiques. Talk about an apples and oranges comparison. But I think right now, and again, the list hasn't been finalized, so we don't really know who else is doing the show. But I would say those two certainly have to be two of the favorites to win. And I think that these pictures that Kamal posted are a perfect example of the type of conditioning that he's going to bring. Look at the detail you can see in his back, and it's just very impressive, especially, again, at his age, 50. For him to bring this level of physique is it's crazy. Now, next up in the news, we got to talk about this one. Michal Krizo is really making the rounds, some of the best gyms in the IFBB in America during his visit here to the States, doing collabs with some of the best bodybuilders here in the States, now adding the Mecca Gold's Gym Venice to that list of gyms that he's attended here, and Jay Cutler to the list of big names in the industry that he's impressed. Now, he posed for Jay in Gold's Gym Venice, and Jay was impressed. He was impressed by his size. He called him like the next big freak when he was discussing him earlier in the video. Then when he was posing for Jay, one of the things that Jay said to his coach was he's got striations and detail in the side poses that a lot of the guys now in the Pro League don't have. And I think that was really a pretty massive compliment coming from Jay, because the easy thing for Jay to say would just be, wow, he's big, he's impressive, he's a mass monster, he's a freak. That would be the easy compliment for Jay to give, just to say something. But for Jay to take it one step further and say that, wow, his conditioning, his striations and detail, he has this in these side poses that other guys don't have, I think is a pretty massive compliment coming from a 4-time Mr. Olympia like Jay. Now, the other thing that I noticed in this video is Jay asked him when he's competing, and he says he's 8 weeks out and he's doing the Prague Pro, which is pretty much what Michal said to me when I asked him last what show he's doing. Not the Prague Amateur. So that suggests to me, or that really confirms to me, that he's going to be going straight to the IFBB Pro League, and they're not going to make him go through the NPC and try to earn another pro card, which I think is interesting and maybe a little bit controversial because, like I said, my understanding is he did turn pro prior to the IFBB Pro League and Elite Pro split, so maybe they're just saying, well, you can just carry that pro card over to here. We're not going to make you, start over in the NPC, which is really, in all reality, I don't see too much controversy about it, because it would be, for him to go to the NPC, he would breeze through, realistically, whatever show he did. It would almost be pointless. Do you really think Michal Krizo is going to go to an NPC show that's a pro qualifier and not win? As a pro in the Elite Pro, he's won all these major titles. Do you really think he wouldn't be able to win an amateur show or an amateur overall at a pro qualifier? It would kind of just be a pointless step back for him and really a waste of his time. So it looks more and more like the first time we're going to see Krizo on stage will be his pro debut with the Pro League and not on the amateur stage. And that Prague Pro is an Olympia qualifier. I want to make that clear. So if he is 8 weeks out from that show and he competes in Prague and he wins that show, that would mean he would be on the Olympia stage in December if he wins the Prague Pro. So it could happen that quickly. All these updates, everybody's saying he's the real deal. Milos, one of the best coaches in the game, said he's the real deal. Flex Lewis saying he's the real deal. Dennis Wolf. Now Jay Cutler. They're all impressed by Michal Krizo, and that's all well and good. There's been a lot of social media talk about Krizo, a lot of viral pictures and videos, and that's all well and good to see him online. Now all these people are seeing him in person, saying he's impressive, and now looks like he's committed to competing in a pro show here in just a couple of months. This could be the meteoric rise of Michal Krizo among the IFBB ranks. And honestly, I think the only thing that he would really need to work on is I think he needs a little bit more thickness throughout his back. That's the one thing. When I was watching him pose for Jay, I think his back could be thicker and wider and have more detail there. But for 8 weeks out, this far out from a show, he looks pretty damn conditioned. He looks pretty damn dialed in. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he places at this upcoming Prague Pro, which it looks like will be the show that he's doing. Now, next up in the news, let's start talking about the Olympia. We're starting to get, funnily enough, 20-week out updates from competitors that are already qualified for the Olympia. Rafael Brandao being one of them, showing his 20-week out Olympia physique. I think it's interesting that so many guys are posting these 20-week out updates already. And I think it's funny because, really, the Olympia is not as far away as it might seem. It's going to be here quicker than you know it. And a lot of these guys that we haven't talked about in a while that are starting to post these updates, we're going to be seeing them on stage very, very soon. Now, of course, Rafael won the Arnold Classic Brazil to get to the Olympia. I think he's going to be a very dangerous bodybuilder there, and I'm very excited to see how he's going to place. You can see here his side chest and his most muscular shot, two very strong shots for him, and 20 weeks out, he looks like he's in pretty good condition so far. You really can't tell that much from 20 weeks out, but I think it's, at least for the novelty of having these updates, it's interesting. Now, here's an interesting comparison. Hassan Mostafa also putting up his 20 weeks out to the Olympia update. Now, it's also a side chest, and you can put this up next to Rafael Brandao, and this is exactly what we want to see from Hassan. Now, granted, Hassan has competed a lot more recently than Rafael has, but the thing that we keep saying we wanted to see from Hassan was better conditioning, and you can see here, pretty crazy conditioning compared to the 20 weeks out update that we saw from Rafael. And this is what we want to see from Hassan. I think Hassan is going to be a strong contender, and I think he's going to place within the top 10 at this year's Olympia if he's able to replicate that conditioning. And he is competing before the Olympia, so it's also worth noting that not only did he compete more recently than Rafael, but he will be competing in the Arnold Classic UK, so he's kind of got to be in a little bit better shape, and maybe that will lend itself to him being in really good shape at the Olympia itself, the fact that he's competed so much. But Hassan looking pretty gnarly in his 20 weeks out update. And we also got a 20 weeks out front double bicep from William Bonac with a pretty interesting caption there. He says, "I sincerely hope or even wish that everyone who is making so much unnecessary noise keeps the same energy come December. I see you too. It's strictly business, my man. Strictly business." And we get a front double bicep at 20 weeks out from the Olympia, looking like the gyno is fixed. That was one of the things that he was talking about was a big issue for him at that Boston Pro, or in the recent memory. That was one of the things that was a big issue for him. And you can see it here that it's gone, which I think is going to make him very dangerous at the 2022 Mr. Olympia. So that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Please make sure you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure you leave a like. It helps out a lot. Make sure you subscribe. It helps out a lot. If you're watching the video right now and you continue to watch the videos, it helps me out a lot if you click subscribe. So as always, love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.